Joining me now is meteorologist and Forbes senior contributor, Dr. Marshall Shepard. Dr. Shepard, I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you for having me, Brittany. I always enjoy talking with you.
As you know, hurricane season, the 2023 Atlantic hurricane season officially kicked off on June 1st. What can we expect? What's the forecast looking like? What can you tell us?
The forecast for the 2023 Atlantic hurricane season, according to many experts like NOAA, is for a normal season. But I always caution with that because it only takes one storm. If we remember Hurricane Ian from last year. Now normal is about 12 to 17 named storms in a given year, with about 5 to 9 of those becoming hurricanes and a few of those becoming major hurricanes. So normal is not good. I mean, because in any given year, 1 or 2 or 3 storms can be a problem. And there is a slight chance for above normal conditions. We've got competing factors going on. We've got an El Nino establishing itself, which tends to lower hurricane amounts, but we also see warmer than normal Atlantic sea surface temperatures, which tends to give storms a boost when they form. So we're going to have to watch this season closely.
I want to talk about all of those interesting factors, but first, when I'm thinking about the big storms I've covered the past few years, I'm thinking Hurricane Ian of 2022, Hurricane Ida of 2021, and Hurricane Michael of 2018, just to name a few. I know you said we're looking like it could be a normal season, but are any of these storms of this magnitude on your radar so far?
Well, it's too early to kind of sort of guess or forecast how many major hurricanes we have. But again, some of the early season forecasts are suggesting that we could have anywhere from 1 to 3 major storms. It really will depend on atmospheric conditions later in the season. But again, I want to emphasize, I don't like to get too hung up on seasonal forecasts, because in years where below normal activity was expected, we still had deadly and devastating hurricanes. So what I advise people to do is just understand that we have conditions that are conducive to anywhere from a normal to slightly above normal hurricane season. And so that means if you live in coastal communities or places that are affected by these storms, you should be preparing as you normally would. What concerns me, Brittany, and this is a big issue, there are so many people that live in coastal communities, have moved to Florida or Texas or Louisiana or North Carolina, that haven't experienced these types of storms. And so I always worry about that novice effect of not being prepared for these types of storms, or even hurricane amnesia for those that have lived there and just not experienced a major storm in a while.
Let's talk about that, because I specifically know quite a few people that moved from New York to Florida, and in New York, you're not really experiencing the same sort of hurricane season as you would in Florida. So what should these people specifically do to prepare for this 6-month hurricane season?
Yeah, it's 6 months at a minimum, because we've seen storms outside of that window as well. But yeah, you need to really understand sort of the nuances of living in a place that experiences hurricanes, understand evacuation routes, have plans, evacuation and emergency plans, have the proper sort of ability to fortify your home, understand your insurance and policies and flood insurance policies and so forth, because what we know is that hurricanes are devastating events, and many people, even those that are experienced, may not understand that we're seeing, in some cases, on average, a tendency towards perhaps stronger storms or more rapidly intensifying storms that you go to bed to that were Cat 2 or 3, and you wake up and they're Cat 4. So it's just a new ball game. It's a new reality for people in terms of hurricanes. And so be proactive, not reactive when the storm is coming a week away. You can start now preparing.
Why do you think it is this new sort of ball game when you go to bed, the storm isn't as bad, and you wake up and all of a sudden it's one of those named storms that people are talking about years later?
Yeah, so a couple of things. There is some anecdotal evidence, although the scientific literature is still investigating, that we are experiencing what we call rapid intensification. Some of those storms you mentioned, Brittany, earlier, like Hurricane Michael and to some degree Ian, they experience rapid intensification in a 24-hour period of time, and so can catch people off guard. That's why I advocate that people get prepared for a Cat 1 or Cat 2 storm and don't sleep on those, as we say. I think people have this sort of sort of misperception that if it's not Cat 3 or Cat 4 or 5, I don't have to worry about it. But we know that Cat 1 and Cat 2s can be dangerous on their own, and they can also rapidly intensify, particularly when they hit the particularly warm Gulf of Mexico and Atlantic waters. That's fuel supply. That's like 93 octane fuel to these hurricanes, as opposed to the 87 or 89 octane that they may have been used to years ago as our oceans continue to warm. And let me just say, many of us as scientists are really concerned about just how warm the oceans are. They're boiling right now, and that's the fuel supply for hurricanes.